The last few years seem to have signaled the impending downfall of video games, and we didn't listen. At this rate, I wouldn't be surprised if game companies just started putting zip archives on disks containing the source code and assets for their games and expecting us to compile them ourselves. As all of you are probably well aware by now, Rockstar recently released the Grand Theft Auto Trilogy Definitive Edition, which is advertised as a remaster of the 3 PS2 era games that kicked the franchise off and turned it into what it is today. I say advertised as a remaster because, ladies and gentlemen, it would appear that the Definitive Edition is not so definitive after all. I know there will be people who call me out for not playing the remasters and therefore having absolutely no right to shit-talk this absolute dumpster fire, but I want to make clear that I, like a lot of others, grew up with the original PlayStation 2 versions of these games, with San Andreas being my favorite. Looking back on it now, Take-Two CEO making comments about Cyberpunk's disastrous launch has aged like fine milk. It's pretty much unanimously understood by now that these remasters of the original GTA Trilogy are just reskinned, glorified mobile ports. That's not an exaggeration for this video either. They are literally mobile ports. Grove Street Games, who are responsible for the mobile ports and the shitty Xbox 360 remaster of San Andreas, are also responsible for whatever this is. This is made most obvious when you realize that many bugs that were exclusive to the mobile ports are very much present in this re-release, most notably CJ staying afloat when he falls into water from heights rather than sinking to the ground. Let's go ahead and kick off this dirty colonoscopy with something that was hiding in plain sight: the trailer. More specifically, let's talk about the absence of actual gameplay footage in the trailer. Like CD Projekt Red, Rockstar resorted to making an entirely cinematic trailer, showing no actual proper gameplay whatsoever aside from a single shot of Claude driving, and didn't send out review copies before release, as most game companies do. However, Rockstar went the extra mile and actively shut down large portions of the modding community, as well as delisting the original games from Steam and other storefronts. They're obviously aware that the modding community is significantly more talented and capable than they could ever dream to be, and that people would likely go to purchase the original versions in favor of this garbage, so they went into full damage control mode, digging themselves deeper and deeper into the hole they're in now. I can acknowledge that the lighting overhaul is a nice touch and works especially well with Vice City's environment. I can also acknowledge that the control scheme improvement in the implementation of Grand Theft Auto V's weapon and radio wheels is a nice touch, but for the most part, the games have gotten a huge downgrade. It seems that over the course of the last 20 years, writers Cesar Valpato, Denise Robinson, Ken Rosenberg, Candy Sucks, the Banco's gang members, Asuka Kasen, random pedestrian NPCs, and a whole slew of other characters, both minor and major in role, have developed some sort of skeletal structure disorder that cause their bodies to shift and morph in unnatural ways. Asuka is suddenly cross-eyed, Ken Rosenberg looks like Simon from Alvin and the Chipmunks, and Denise looks like the judge from the fucking Bee Movie. This is just scratching the surface of everything wrong with this port. Sure, the visual issues are more than plentiful, but there's also performance issues that shouldn't be happening, and especially not on the consoles they're happening on. Xbox Series X and PlayStation 5 players are noticing frame rate drops to as low as 40 and under, and on the Nintendo Switch the game stutters more than Jimmy Valmer from South Park. One of the most prominent issues that gets brought up everywhere, and understandably so, is the rain, or what's supposed to be rain. Rain is, realistically and logically speaking, supposed to be transparent. Not enough to be invisible, but enough to be subtle and not distracting. Somehow, Grove Street Games managed to completely botch this, and instead of implementing natural-appearing rain as you would see in the original versions of these games from the early 2000s and literally every other video game in existence that has rain, they made it look like milk being poured through a cheese grater. This makes nighttime navigation virtually impossible and physically debilitating to look at. Modders are working to fix these issues themselves, but I get the feeling Rockstar is going to just delete these mods as soon as they release. They've just recently started issuing takedowns against Grand Theft Auto 4 mods, including a save file, so I unfortunately wouldn't be very surprised. On the topic of environmental problems, let me show you a picture really quick. Pause the video and take a good look at it and try to figure out what's wrong. When you're ready for the answer, resume the video. Here you go. Did you see it? No? Of course you don't, because they removed it. The signature fog that shrouded the world spaces of each game in mystery and gave the illusion that they're much bigger than they really are is completely absent and ruins a lot of the experience. You can see the entire map when you're flying, which breaks the immersion, and because of the increased draw distance, you can see low-quality LOD objects in the distance that you aren't supposed to see. For those of you who aren't really tech-savvy, LODs are low-quality models that load at a distance when you're far away from something, and as you get closer, the full-quality model loads. You're not really supposed to see the LODs, which which is where the fog comes in to obscure them until you're close enough that the full model finishes loading. This is even done in modern games like Skyrim and The Outer Worlds. This is done to save memory. For some reason, however, Grove Street Games decided that obscuring things you're not meant to look directly at and preserving the original game's atmospheres was completely unnecessary, which results in all three games looking almost identical aside from location, vehicles, and characters. Oh, and if you thought that was bad, it gets worse, because somehow they ended up applying a face texture to a cliffside in Vice City, which, honestly, how the hell does something like this happen? And on top of all of that, as if it couldn't get any worse, Rockstar pulled the PC version from their launcher for a couple days because of unintentionally included files, which, according to a lot of people, were actually relating to the infamous hot copy minigame that got San Andreas a temporary adults-only rating back in 2004. Now look, there's two ways I look at this situation. On one hand, considering how many low-effort shovelware porn games plague Steam and the Nintendo Switch shop, yes, I am being completely serious about that, as well as the fact that nobody really seems to give a shit about acknowledging their existence, the hot coffee minigame should be the least of anyone's concerns. Bush isn't president anymore, so doing the hanky-panky in video games isn't really on the United States list of priorities. On the other hand, however, the fact that these files somehow accidentally made it into the game after they were supposed to have been completely removed 17 years ago shows me that these people paid about as much attention to their development cycle as Jacques Berman Webster II did to the 8 people who died at the Astroworld venue. Fucking pathetic. It's gotten to the point that Grand Theft Auto The Trilogy Definitive Edition has an overall user score of 0.5 on Metacritic, putting it within the ranks of Madden NFL 22 and Warcraft 3 Remastered. Due to the excessive and poorly managed use of AI upscaling technology, textures, and likely models as a result too, have been absolutely butchered and their innards strewn up like your 6-year-old daughter's birthday decorations. Air guitars and guitar wanks have become AR guitars and guitar hanks respectively. Someone at Grove Street apparently doesn't know what a nut is. The Shaft hot dog sign and font were turned into Microsoft Word art, and the slogan has been changed from the taste of a real man's meat to the taste of a real man's heat, which makes no sense and completely kills the joke. Confederate flags are completely absent where they shouldn't be, which makes no sense because GTA has always embraced political incorrectness. I think the worst one I've seen is the Deli and Pizza storefront in GTA 3. The sign's font has been downgraded to standard impact, and the words flavored, espresso, and soups have been butchered and turned into Raiden, Depresso, and Sops, respectively. To end this video, don't buy the GTA Definitive Trilogy. I'm going to leave a G2A link for the original Steam versions of these games because, quite frankly, you'd be better off spending your money on those. This shit that Rockstar and Grove Street Games are peddling to you isn't worth $60. It's a bundle of 3 $6 mobile ports hastily reported over to next-gen consoles with little effort whatsoever. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed the video, be sure to leave a like and hit the subscribe button. If you didn't like the video, go ahead and dislike it. I honestly don't care because YouTube's hiding dislikes anyways, so yeah, don't buy this. See ya.